And so then he fights Victor again and he manages to take him out, which is believable, as his new stronger adamantium skeleton would allow him to be so strong that he could take Victor out. But then Gambit attacks him, which is also believable, as Gambit would want revenge because he thought that he wanted to take him back to that horrible island. And so then Victor uses the distraction to escape, which is believable, as of course Wolverine's senses would be distracted by Gambit's attack. But Wolverine tells Gambit that he's going after Stryker as well and wants revenge in him as well, and that he wants his help. And this is a very smart and surprising twist, that he now wants to ally with Gambit, and it works, which is smart and surprising as well, as Gambit of course very badly wants revenge on Stryker and all the people that hurt him. And when Wolverine offers him this is of course a great plan to finally get back at them. And so that okay, and so then Wolverine is flown to the island by Gambit, and he manages to sneak in, which is believable as he's a trained assassin, so he could easily sneak into that building. And then oh, and another thing, the idea that the Christian church started off as just a collective community is ridiculous. Religion cannot be decentralized, because then everybody can just have their own interpretation, and there can be only one version of the truth. And that ain't okay. That is why Jesus made Peter the rock of the church for. Because if you have people have their own interpretation of what you say, you might as well not say anything at all. Insert 2 of Us to 1 reference here. Oh, and by the way, don't you dare say stuff about that there were many different communities back then, because traveling went a lot slower back then. Because, well, that's a myth. Ever heard of the Roman road system? Yeah, people could travel a lot faster back then, thanks to the Roman Empire. In that time, you could travel from Gaul to Syria in about 2 weeks if you really wanted to. Yeah, so, shut up, you goddamn heretics. Shut up. Now. And it turns out not only was Victor working for Stryker, but so was Wolverine's wife. This is a clever reveal that his brother and wife worked with Stryker to anger him to join the experiment. It meant that they manipulated him emotionally, which Stryker could do as he knew his history, and it would be easiest as it would make the strong Wolverine, who is always conscious and becomes even stronger due to the procedure, not interrupted. And you could fake someone's death by making the heart beat slowly, and a good person would still do that, like Wolverine's wife, because she had to do so to free his sister, even when she was a good person, which also made it easier for her to manipulate the very good and kind Wolverine. And of course she has to do so to save her sister, because Stryker is using her for his experiments, which is believable, as he uses many different mutants for his experiments, and the sister of a mutant could also be a mutant, like with Wolverine's brother. And he uses Victor to kidnap many mutants, which makes sense as he can use their power for his experiments, and so he could use those mutants as leverage, as when he kidnaps people's families, he can manipulate them to help him. And also it's believable a mutant like Silver Fox, who could influence people's emotions, could get Wolverine to fall in love with her and want revenge for her death, as she made them very passionately care about her, and she didn't just tell him to go to Stryker, as she can influence their emotions, not their logical thinking, or their free will. So yes, suck on that, you shit fart ass mucus. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, you anal vomit shit, cunt, whatever it is. Fuck you. Yeah. Next. Next scene. I don't know what's going on here, but I do realize now. Look, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have been so mean. So I apologize. Okay, are we cool again? Because if not, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you. And then it. Look, I'm sorry for being so mean. Okay, I'm just having a little bit of a difficult time. But, you know, come on, we're friends. We can move on together. Yeah, and it turns out that Stryker is using both Silver Fox and Victor, which makes sense as he treats mutants as objects, and Silver Fox said this to Victor, and it's logic he cannot handle that, as he so badly wanted to get the adamantium, and so he would take it out on her, as he's really aggressive and unfair, and as Wolverine sees her as still innocent, trying to help her sister, and is a moral person, it is believable he would come to her rescue, and because of her wanting him not to be an animal, and he would then not kill Victor, because he still cared a lot for what she thought as he loved her, and it turns out that she did love him and decided not to manipulate him, which makes sense as they are both good people. Yes, this is kinda awesome. Now, to continue. And to those of you saying it might not be smart as a Tourette person to eat loads of chocolate, well, your mother. Yeah. And they decide both to oppose to oppose Stryker and free all the mutants, and he does. And his wife reunites with her sister, and this was smart as Wolverine now had all the strength but could use it to oppose Stryker, and then Stryker sends Weapon 11 at them, which is a really epic twist because he's a mutant with many unstoppable powers combined, and it is believable that he could create such a mutant because he experimented with the powers before. And he almost kills Logan, which is believable as he is such a strong power-combining mutant, yet his brother saves him and helps him, and they fight him together, deciding that they are a team and that they need to stick together. And it is believable two such strong fighters could take him out, and it's believable that his brother realized he cared for him after Wolverine spared him, and of course since he always cared for Wolverine and they were very close brothers, and he was just very frustrated by him leaving him, but now with Wolverine sparing him, he remembered how much Wolverine meant to him. And then they destroy Weapon 11, and then he tells his brother that they are done, and it is believable that he still, after all that happened, couldn't totally forgive his brother, but his brother informs him that it can never be done, which is nice that he still wants to be there for his brother even when he can't forgive him at this point, and he leaves him then, of course, as Wolverine doesn't need him at this point, which makes sense as they can still later on resolve their differences and they still have some problems in the relationship. Then Wolverine jumps off the collapsing power plant, nearly gets crushed but is saved by Gambit, and it makes sense Gambit would come to help him, as Gambit was his friend now and really wanted to help him defeat Stryker. And yes, the rocks wouldn't do much to him, that is a plot all Film Brain was right about, as he has this healing power and the adamantium skeleton which would allow him to survive them crushing him. And the children use their powers to escape the guards, which is clever because their powers are very strong, and now that they've been freed they can be strong enough to defeat Stryker's men, and Xavier uses his telekinetic powers to warn Cyclops so he can, even while not seeing, can lead them out, because Xavier would logically want to help them escape as he wants to help mutants preserve their freedom, and he can contact people telekinetically and they make it out, which is really smart that Xavier would keep an eye on evil experiments and use an escape as an opportunity to help free people. And Film Brain complains that they listen to Cyclops even when he's blind, but of course they've grown to be very close being captured like this, and in a situation so scary you sometimes make leaps of faith, especially to someone like Cyclops who seems very sure and seemed to be helped by higher powers, and it indeed works out. So that was very smart and made perfect sense. Also great, you Protestants want to lessen the importance of Mary. Yeah, the father and son matter, but not the mother and wife, who was a pure virgin by the way, and raised God in an extremely kind way, and supported him, and had to deal with her son being crucified. And to those saying you only wanted one joke about this, I only wanted one review to repute, so fuck you fuckers, and fuck you two viewers, and you also stupid Wolverine, and you too Film Brain, you hypocrite, and you too Donald Duck! Why does nobody love me? And his wife gets injured and goes back to him and is dying, and he wants to carry her off, which makes sense that his wife would go to him when he's dying, and that he would immediately want to save her as he now totally loves her again. But Stryker tries to shoot him with adamantium bullets and succeeds and makes him unconscious, causing him to lose his memory, which yeah, it would have that effect as the bullets destroy his brain, as adamantium pierces adamantium, and your brain keeps your memory, so if it's destroyed, so is your memory. When his brain regrows, his memories don't. And he then tries to kill Wolverine's wife, who uses her control to make him drop the gun and walk away. And the fair point of Film Brain is, why didn't she just make him turn himself in? And she then dies, and Wolverine has no memory of her, which is really tragic, that he loses her after all, and that he loses his memory of her, and the good times he had with her, and the identity he had as a hero. Captain Logan complains it is unclear why he wants Wolverine to have amnesia, but I think it's immensely clear Wolverine now opposes him and wants to stop his operations, and he cannot be killed, so by making him lose his memory he won't attack him anymore. Also he complains he tries to give him hints of his past in X2, yes, the parts that didn't make him want to kill Stryker. Then Gambit tries to help him, but he takes off alone because he's very confused, which makes sense. He wants to be alone as he's totally confused and doesn't feel comfortable around people he doesn't know. Then Stryker gets questioned for the death of a superior general who he killed when he wanted to fire him, which is clever that he did it so that he wouldn't be fired, and that he did it in a way that nobody would find out and that he could stay in charge. And it is open in that it now shows how he could still be in charge next to, as he will probably survive the questioning, but it's still unclear how they will question him and how he will get out of this. So maybe they were setting this up for a continuation film, which is of course very interesting and very mysterious, but it's still very clear and well-rounded here, so it's perfect setup for a sequel without being too vague or open. And also epic is that Weapon 11 turns out to be alive, making for an extremely powerful mutant that is now controlless. It really creates anticipation and tension for the next film. Also, with all this stuff about Stryker, I'm surprised I didn't get to this one earlier. Stryker is very obviously a really ambitious Democrat. Yeah, that one was very obvious, but you know, he hates people that haven't done anything just because they're different, and he values the group over the individuals and takes this way too far. I'm sorry. I think the story is really constructive as a prequel and really meaningful, as it shows Wolverine wasn't a victim of physical violence but was manipulated by his heart being used against him. And then he was constantly pulled back into his violent life of killing, using his morals against him, making him unhappy and aimless and only care for revenge. And even when he conquers that, he still ends up losing his loved ones due to cruelty and is left alone and aimless. And he therefore ends up no longer being an animal, but still having some inner darkness and being empty and becoming skeptical and aimless, which sets up his character arc in the original trilogy. Everything that happened to him resulted from his conflicted nature, but ultimately it was more because he was a good misunderstood person. This isn't pointless, as after he loses his memory, he still isn't re-recruited by Stryker and has left this world. We see how he became lonely, what drives him, and we see the family he had, and this relationship with Stryker, and the complaint a revenge story isn't compelling from Logan. Okay, why? It meant he lost everything that gave him joy, so all he had left was revenge, as a result of his good side, which was used against him. How is psychological trauma less compelling than Wolverine just having been physically abused in the way Stryker did to every other mutant we saw being abused in the original trilogy? So what you're saying is that Stryker said nothing reliable to him and X2, that he was blatantly lying, and that he had physically abused him, yet he still wanted to re-recruit him this time with manipulation, while apparently he was lying about him having manipulated him into it the last time in what we now see in X-Men Origins Wolverine. Then he would have actually physically forced him into it, but then in X2 he does want to manipulate him to rejoin him, but he offered nothing? Also, revenge is justice. It's getting people who did something horrible and to hurt innocent people and to take everything from you to pay. That's a very understandable human motivation. Revenge has often been very important in justice and has been very important to many people, as it was all they had left to live for, and it has been a central theme in many films. I mean, revenge film is a genre. Oh, and hold on. Time again. This one is actually very special to me, because when I was a little kid, I at first didn't like my dad all that much because he was often gone to work, so I didn't know him that well, so I thought that he was scary to me, but then he slowly tried to really become my friend, and then he often went and bought these ones with me because I loved them as a kid, and he always bought the red ones because he was into darker chocolate, and you don't care, do you? Right, well, fuck you and let's move on. I mean, it is easy to get people on your side offering nothing, but usually you need to claim you're offering economic equality, which means blatant communism, or bashing a guy who would have sold out for toys simply because you didn't like the new trilogy, or you need to offer them the possibility to make someone else pay for their sex, even when your only excuse is that the person is inside of you, well, this is your fault and that it's pure social Darwinism. And to those saying this is heavy-handed, at least I'm not endlessly disrespecting one director claiming he sold out, simply because there are a lot of creatures and vehicles in these movies that can be used for toys, even though these are obviously part of creating a more visually complex universe, and this is discussed in many making-of features, and because his films would combine many tones, even though his third film is exclusively dark, and he had it even rated PG-13 explicitly, which caused him to lose an entire audience, and the first film was mostly kid-friendly, and just as political material as it shows Paradise falling due to political corruption, and at least I didn't say that he gets casted Samuel Jackson for box office reasons, because he cast him in a role he didn't play before, even though that simply means you aren't typecasting. And at least, I don't use Down syndrome as an insult. I should have those subscribers. I'm the smart one. Me! I always was the ambitious one. Me!